The mosquitoes are atrocious today. I'm gonna get a little fire going to dissuade them from hanging around. I've already done the preliminary preparation and picking little twigs and things off of standing deadwood because everything's wet. One of the things I always remind people to do in our classes is when you use a tool, put it back where it came from. It's all too easy to sit something down only to have it get lost, and then the next time you need it, it's not there. That'll get those mosquito bugs gone. I started out with, since everything is wet, I started out with quite a bit more fat wood, or as I grew up calling it in this part of the world, lighter with an apostrophe T on the end. That should sustain itself while I prepare some other fuel wood. And the way it's clouded up and looking like rain, I think I'm going to build a little shelter real quick. Stay with me. A simple plow point shelter is one of the quickest things to get up in a hurry if you need to get one up to get out of the rain. Simply take a couple of bites around the tree. If you have a tree, if you don't have a tree, you can use a walking stick. That's another reason to always carry a walking stick with you in the woods. It's handy for a lot of things. Couple of bites, couple of half hitches. Extend it out. Didn't allow for that little tree being in the way. But I've got a quick shelter. One more thing. The ground is wet. I don't want to sit on the wet ground. Always carry either an extra small tarp or a sheet of plastic in your kit. I've got something to sit on so I don't have to sit on the wet ground. In our class next week, with our basic outdoor skills class, I'm going to demonstrate in that class how to make this thing waterproof so that water running down the hill and off of the tarp can't come up underneath the tarp where you want to be when it's wet. I couldn't live with that tree. So I used my folding saw and just got it out of the way. I'll use it for something else back here, but my shelter looks better. I want to take a couple of minutes and simply talk about what I like and what I don't like about the bushcraft community. I did not know that there was such a thing as bushcraft or a bushcraft community until a few years ago, when I say a few, it may have been 10, I don't know. At this point in life, it all runs together, and maybe that's one of the beautiful things about approaching 65 years old. But I didn't know that there was such a thing as bushcraft or a bushcraft community until my dear wife decided to set me up a Facebook account. And I discovered that there were bushcraft groups around. Some people with doing this have very notable names. I'm not going to mention anybody, but that's where I came across the word bushcraft and discovered that there was a bushcraft community. When I first discovered that there is such a thing as bushcraft and a bushcraft community, I got really excited about it. And I started, I discovered YouTube, and I was watching YouTube videos and things like that, and thinking, man, this is really great. There's people actually going out into the woods and doing the same thing that I do and have been doing all of my life in one way or another. And one of the things that I like about it is that it gives me a connection with other like-minded people doing similar things. And one of the things that I noticed, and looking back, is that 10 years ago, bushcraft focused a lot, predominantly, on taking minimal gear into the bush, into the woods, and crafting things that we needed in order to do the things that we do. And yes, there's a real emphasis on fire making and cutting tools and the basic stuff, sheltering. There's still a strong emphasis on those things. Those are the heart and soul of bushcraft or survival. And I love that about bushcraft, being able to connect with people not only here in Alabama, in the United States, but around the world. What I don't like about bushcraft and the bushcraft community, and it's something that and pardon me if I step on toes or anything like that. I'm not being negative. I'm just being analytical in my own mind, and this is where I'm at in this thing. What I don't like about bushcraft and the bushcraft community in general
is the way it's moved largely away from bushcraft and taken a side road on bush gear. And I'm not downplaying, or I'm not throwing stones at anybody or anything like that. Please understand that. But the emphasis has gotten to be so strongly on what kind of knife are you carrying, what kind of pots, what kind of shelter, what kind of tarp, what kind of this, what kind of that. And it seems to me that the higher dollar stuff that people buy in the way of gear has begun to set the bar for bushcraft that has become bush gear. And that disturbs me, because it doesn't matter what you take into the woods gear-wise. It doesn't matter what you take into the bush gear-wise. If you don't have the skills to use the resources that are available in the outdoor environment to do what you need to do, all the gear in the world will not save your fanny in the woods. And that's something that's been going on in my mind the last few days, and something that I felt like I needed to address on my channel, because I am not heavily gear motivated. If you get your gear at the dollar store or at Walmart or wherever, and you take that gear and you go into the woods and enjoy the woodland, the bush environment, you're doing what you need to do. And if you can afford a $300 knife to play with in the woods occasionally, good for you. Personally, I can't. And at this point in my life, if I could afford a $300 knife to play with in the woods, I seriously doubt that I'd buy one. My priorities are just different. And I just wanted to throw that out there. Focus on developing skills. And then it doesn't matter if you're using a $15 Mora or a $300 knife. I use this inexpensive Mora every day. And if by chance I lost it, it's easy to replace. It's not a budget breaker. And the same thing with any of my gear. My entire kit that I've assembled, the investment is probably less than what a lot of people are paying for knives these days. And I get good service out of what I use. And I just want to encourage you, folks, just get into the woods. Get out, explore, adventure in the woods, listen to the birds. Become familiar with the resources that are available around you wherever you're at. Well, I got my gear packed up, and I'm going to head back to the cabin. It was good to get out in the woods and spend a little personal dirt time out here. I was able to practice, get more practice, making a fire with a ferro rod and really, really wet material. It seems like the last couple of months, every fire I've made has had to be made from wet stuff. Practice your skills.
Practice your skills in all weather conditions. That's important. Before I head back to the cabin, I want to thank you for subscribing, thank you for watching, and thank you for subscribing to David Kralik Outdoors. We've got some interesting stuff coming up in the very near future. I mentioned it on the last video. We're not quite yet to disclose what that all entails. We're excited, and we're looking forward to being able to pull the sheet off of the statue, so to speak, but it's just not time to do that yet. The last time I checked, David Kralik Outdoors had 149 subscribers. We're tickled at that. We really are. We've only been doing videos for this channel for a few months, and folks, I want you to know that we really appreciate you watching. We appreciate you subscribing. One of the things that I mentioned early on in beginning this channel was that monetizing this channel that's the farthest thing from our mind. Starting an online store, that's one of the farthest things from our mind. We simply want to present videos with good, usable content related to things outdoors, and your being a subscriber suggests to us that what we're presenting is valuable to you. Thank you. And we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to head to the cabin, and maybe it won't rain on me before I get there. If it does, I guess that's just part of being outside, isn't it? We'll see you on the next one.